Aya. This is a very special episode, 2 episodes actually, of Probably True, brought to you in association with those lovely people at the LGBT Foundation, which is a charity helping LGBT people, funnily enough. Specifically for this double episode, I'm going to be talking to the good people in their recovery team, talking about sex and drugs and substance abuse and addiction and recovery and all that kind of thing. So, if that's not for you, please consider this a big old flashing content warning. If you're not comfortable listening to that kind of thing, I get it. That's cool. You don't have to. Go download some older episodes. Have a listen to them. Sit this one out. All good. In fact, definitely download some older episodes. I need the listens. Because, statistics and shit. Anyway, not why we're here. We are here to talk about the amazing work being done with the LGBT Foundation. So, let's do that. This is Probably True. Please be aware that the following contains strong language and adult themes. It would be boring without them. First up, I spoke to Louise, the head of the recovery team, to get an idea of what it does and how it works and that.
The recovery program at LGBT Foundation offers support to anyone who identifies as LGBT and would like to make any changes around drug or alcohol issues. What we offer includes one-to-one support, so that looks like a worker that you see once a week who supports you to kind of discuss triggers and motivations and goals, setting goals, kind of relapse prevention, all of those things, looking at like what impacts your drug use might be having or your alcohol use might be having on your life and what you'd like to change about that. So that can include kind of harm reduction as well. So it might be that a lot of people think when you're engaging in recovery, it has to be like completely sober for the rest of my life. And we don't work that way. We're looking at like what would be for you, your kind of ideal goal. And that might be reducing something, or it might be just exploring drug use in a safer way. So we go off what the individual wants to achieve. And yeah, sometimes that will be complete abstinence, and we support people to make that happen as well. What we've managed to do in Manchester over the years is create an LGBT specific recovery community where people with lived experience who might have gone through the service then volunteer and become group facilitators and peer supporters. And so it's really, we're a small team, but we're able to do huge things because we have the support of the people that we support, and then they go on to support others. So it's really inspirational to do this kind of work. A lot of people, when you talk about alcohol or drugs, they think of addicts and they think of addiction and they think of train spotting, and they think of kind of the more visible drug users maybe that you see who are like street homeless, and there are a lot of people who have problems with drugs and alcohol who are functioning, who are going to work, who are kind of, you wouldn't know that they have issues, and that is a big thing in the LGBT community, I think. And there's so much stigma then around asking for support because you don't see yourself as having having something that you need to change or that you would benefit from changing. You don't see it as problematic, but actually it is impacting your mental health, your physical health, your kind of wealth, lots of different areas of your life.
After getting a broad overview of the services provided by the recovery team, I was keen to talk to some of the people who had come to the foundation for help with their approach to drugs and sex. I wanted to hear from them if the LGBT Foundation does as good a job as it claims. Spoiler alert, yes, it does. It's amazing. Happily, several lovely people were willing to talk very openly with me about their experiences, including Rob and Simon. This is Rob.
So I'm Rob. I've just finished my 12-week period, 12-week phase, and now starting to look at going into different avenues that has been brought up since removing the substance abuse side of it. Since I've been doing the course, I found it really useful. There's been a lot of elements that it's just allowed me to put a bit more of a mirror up and see a lot of my own thoughts and feelings and the reasons why I was doing certain things. And it's just allowed for a bit more space and for me to actually see that a little bit more, because I feel like I hid away from it so much and created so many narratives and stories that would lead to me not facing it. So just the ability to have a bit of a soundboard that was non-judgmental was very fundamental into allowing that space to start to process where my mind was and what was actually happening.
And this is Simon.
I'm Simon. Been involved with the programme about, I'd say about a year and a half. A few months ago I had to take time out because they had to do inpatient rehab detox because of my mind, just my life became unmanageable, if I'm honest. I was still attending groups and stuff, and like still being engaged with the programme and the staff, but my life became unmanageable due to, you know, the parties, the drugs, the alcohol, days on end, wasn't sticking to my day routines. My day routines was non-existent, you know. But that was also dealing with past traumas from when I was in the army and stuff, which I thought I was just living the party life, really. I thought everyone did it until I looked at myself when I went away to detox, rehab and stuff, and I realised I was doing it for different reasons.
As they both had very recent experience of the recovery program, I was keen to find out if their perspectives on chemsex had changed.
Me now looking back, sex was an escape. It was a way to... Got you. Yeah, I'd say it was an escape to not actually look at myself or look at past traumas. It was just an excuse to pretty much get free drugs, take my mind off what was really in my mind. I was avoiding sleep because I didn't want the nightmares, so I'd just stay awake purposely, knowing I can get free drugs. I can also get attention off people, and it'll keep my mind busier, so I don't have to look at myself, you know, and like what I actually needed to look at, really.
Yeah.
And it was just an easy way to get, instead of spending all the time, it's an easy way to get what I needed to stop the trauma. Yeah, pretty much.
You've literally nailed on the head. I was like exactly the same thing. Yeah, for me it was the exact same, like this idea of not needing to deal with certain stuff that was happening, an escape, a way to feel connection with people in a way that I felt comfortable with at that point. And yeah, a way of sort of in my head thinking that I was dealing with traumas and being able to like move away from where my mind was before.
Yeah,
and
definitely. That's what it is.
Being the opposite. For me, my whole side of chemsex started when I had a lot of abusive relationships, whether they were emotional or physical, and that then put me in a situation of where whenever that relationship would end, it then became a habit for me to then be like, rebel against them and go and do whatever I wanted to because I had control over my own body, I had freedom over what I was doing. And it then sort of built from that into then becoming something that I then felt I was gaining more community from, and I was able to look after people, and I was getting a lot of my needs met from like hosting sessions and things like this as such. But yeah, it was trying to feel more connection from people. It was trying to, yeah, and then there was as well, like whenever you'd scroll through Grindr and you'd see who in my mind I was like, oh, these are the 10 out of 10s. It seemed like all of those people were the people that wanted to do chems and not have, and they had like warped brains of being like, they only would have sex if they were high, or they'd only do bareback, and it was all this like toxic sexual relations that they wanted. And it was like, oh, if I wanted to be part of that sort of, I used to call them when I was a kid, vest top crew. If I wanted to be part of the vest top crew, you'd have to be like part of that whole entire scene. So it was kind of trying to be an image of a person that I thought was the peak of attraction.
I'd say from my side, it was when I came out, I was about 21 when I left the army. Straight away, I got involved in drugs, selling it pretty much. So I was going to chill outs as they was before like they became sex parties really. They were just chill outs after the club. But obviously I was attending them, but I was going as well as partying myself, but I was also supplying. But then when you're doing that, it becomes a very lonely life as well, as addiction's also sucking you in slowly but surely. So then when I'm at home taking drugs on my own, I'm thinking, oh, I'm lonely, I'm all alone and da-da-da-da. But if I go to a sex party, I'm making money, I'm not alone, I've got a community kind of feel, and I'm thinking I'm doing it for all the right reasons, but really it's insanity. You know, I'm sat at home taking drugs on my own, feeling lonely and depressed, but then I'm just going to go and take drugs with a crowd that I'm not really even into. Just stay out for days and days, spend all my money in drugs, and then sit back home depressed, saying I'm lonely again. So it's just a cycle.
Were you aware of that at the time?
No, I was blind. Yeah. And then as addiction sucked me in, I was needing to take more, and then I was doing it more to get more. It's just a vicious circle, innit? It's just a.
It is.
So what drew you to this particular recovery program?
For me, when I first decided that I was like, I want to deal with this and start to figure out what I wanted in life, there's a couple of elements to it. Like there was one that was, I've always wanted a certain kind of relationship that I don't know anybody who does chems to have this kind of relationship. But it was this whole like, not necessarily white picket fence, but like monogamous, like making dinners for each other and having this like wholesome relationship. And I was like, I'm not going to get that with the lifestyle that I currently had. And then the other side of it was one of the last times that I'd taken chems, I'd had in my system at one given time, it was like caffeine, weed, alcohol, G, MCAT, Viagra, and then ketamine was my last one, just to like teeter me over the edge. And ketamine was the one that was like, I thought I was going to die, and was like, I was sat there saying to my friends while they were still going, I was like, I'm just going to have an hour. I just need to like breathe and just get the fan on me and I'll be fine. And yeah, and then at that point I was just like, but I'm all right with dieting. We're all right. We're good. Like we've lived a good life. And then it got to like the next day and I was like, okay, yeah, that's not where you want to be and you want to deal with that. So then that was like I wouldn't say rock bottom, because I feel like rock bottom could be a lot lower than that for me in my head, but it was like my point of where I was like, this is where I need to work it out because it's not giving me the future that I want to have in my own life.
Yeah, I'd say my life just became unmanageable. It just really became unmanageable. I also started drinking heavily, i.e. alcoholic, because I wasn't able to afford the drugs. I was isolating more, rattling every day, sweating, sat there alone, pushing people away who was trying to give me advice, but I was like, oh no, I'm sound, it's just a blip, and pretending or lying, shall we say, to everyone else like I was living okay and I was doing fine, when really inside I was a broken person. I was absolutely broken to my hands and knees. Like my flat was getting a mess, couldn't keep up with bills. I was not looking after myself. My self-care was a joke, but I'm there still thinking I'm God's gift. Because I'd have a hit or something, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's not that bad. As soon as that wore off, you know, the world's ending again. But yeah, so I had to reach out to Louise, in fact, and like, she knows everything about me and stuff, and I'm just someone who'll just say it how it is. Like, I'd turn up, I'd have to rattle, I'd be sweating, I'd be struggling to get out of the house because I'd be thinking everyone's looking at me, and I was getting to the point where I couldn't even speak on the phone because I didn't know who it was. I was paranoid out my head, or I was thinking I needed drugs to stop me being paranoid. And then it was the drugs that was making me. So yeah, my life just became, it was either sort myself out or I'm going to end up dying, which I've seen so many people as well. There's another part of it, like close friends that I've seen that have said took a little bit more G than what they should have. Well, not should have, but you know, they thought, oh, it's not working, so I'll take a little bit more, or they'll smoke a little bit more meth, and next thing they've got a brain hemorrhage. But they're like a level 4 nurse or something, and you think if it can happen to them, why is it not happening to me? You know, and people don't see the effects it can cause brain hemorrhage. You know, you can go under and never wake up. And yeah, when you see it happening so so much, and people are just like, oh, we'll carry on, we don't see the signs. So I just had to sort myself out, really.
Like with me, with the impact of the rest of my life, it did affect it, not to a level of where I was physically unable on a daily basis, but it was at a point of where, like, I manage a team of people, and my management style had changed from being understanding and accepting and trying to, my first sort of subconscious thought to try and understand what people were doing, and more my cup's full and I'm just snapping at every single person. And the same as yourself, where it's like I was having a lot of the drugs that I was having was for depression and anxiety, thinking that it was going to fix that, and then it's like, oh, maybe not. And like, I've been 7 weeks sober now, and like, I've got no depression or anxiety, and I'm like, where's that gone? Where did that even come from? So yeah, so it did affect other aspects of my life, but in a way now that, because I'm in my mind, I'm so far removed from that side now, it feels like a different life. It feels like a different person. So I kind of even forget about a lot of the darkness that kind of surrounds it, because I'm like, okay, yeah, that's not there anymore to even think about, in a weird way.
Yeah. I knew I'd got to the point where I had to reach out, even if I was shaking, sweating, didn't even want to go out. I just had to just take the dive, because it would have been that or death. Been in hospital that many times due to it. The amount of times I've been in hospital with pancreatitis, and it kills people just after one, and I kept on getting it. But I'd even I'd nip out of hospital. That's how bad it got. I was nipping out of hospital and picking up outside hospital, going back in, like having a blow or something, or taking a G while I was in hospital. But my brain was telling me, oh, because nothing's working in the hospital, to get asleep. Or my brain was making wild excuses. Oh, we're not giving you certain tablets here, so I'll have this because this will compensate and for my depression and stuff like that, or it'll sort my anxiety out. And when really it was just the insane thinking of it all, And I just had to take that jump and just get help. I was terrified at first, but I was put at ease, and I seen people actually understood what, because I thought everyone was just going to judge me. I thought I was going to be judged. Oh, look at him, he's doing this, he's doing that. And just be left aside, because I've had services in the past where you go and some services don't, engage with you enough, or don't help you enough, and then you're just back to square one. But I just felt like I was getting the support, understanding, they were understanding me because I'm a complex person. And yeah, it made me feel at ease, and because they knew that I was still, going out and stuff, and I was just open and honest. And that's all that was after me, just to be honest. Yeah.
I was terrified about coming in, and the idea of being in group situations of where I was like, I might know people and I'll see faces that I've seen out and things like this, like that terrified me. Because of the work that I do, I'm like, I could see clients of mine and like co-workers or anything like this, and I'm like, that freaked me the hell out. But then like, I was with Gracie for the whole thing, and she's been very disarming throughout the entire experience, and it's all been very one-to-one. It's not been as much of the group stuff, which has been calming for me, because that was one of the things that caused me anxiety. But from the very first session, was just very relaxed, was able to just say the things that I was expecting, the things that I didn't like about the idea of what this was going to be, and like how it was all going to go. And yeah, it's just been completely different to what I was expecting that it was going to be, in a sense of like a 12-step program or something like this. I thought that it was going to be very regimented, but it's been very fluid throughout the entire process to really just cater to what I was needing at that point in time, whether that was a cup of tea or a cry or whatever it might be. It's like, it's always been supported.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, one-on-one, I was like that. In groups at first, I was, no. I'd get to the door there and think, nope, I'm going, I'm not doing this. But I was like, I did more one-on-ones. I felt more comfortable with the things I had to talk about. Yeah.
As you've been through recovery and both got yourselves to a much healthier place, what message would you have for someone who might be watching or listening right now, thinking that maybe they should try to get some help?
I'd just say, if you're going to ask for support, make sure like you're asking somebody who's sober. You know, you're not just having a drug-fueled chat with someone. I want to get help, and because you're just going to get offered something. Oh, just have this, you'll be fine in a second.
Yeah.
Just ask someone who's either like been there and got the help, or someone who's sober and asking, like, offering the help. But yeah.
No, I think when it comes to people being in whatever situation they're in, everyone that I seem to speak to is on the same sort of pathway of being like, it's like the same as us today. We're completely different situations, but there's so many similarities within it. And that's kind of the thing that I've picked up on most in those situations, is like just the conversation that we've had about being like what we've had today. It's like, oh wow, so like you actually feel the same that I've been feeling, and you think the same that I've been thinking. We're kind of on the same path. And I'm like, yeah, we're in the exact same room with the exact same mindsets, with the exact same situation, but there's just different lives and experiences that have been brought in within that. So there's not really anything that's like specifics that people say in those situations or anything like that. It's just very much, we all as people just want to feel connection and love, and it's just how we're trying to navigate through that. And ultimately, through life experiences, everyone's trying to find it in different ways, because some of us just don't know how to express or find or search for those kind of things. But then places like LGBT Foundation give you those kind of tools and trades to find out what you need. Sorry.
Thanks, Rob. That seems like a good place to end the first part of this special episode. Before I left, I asked Louise, if someone was wanting to learn more, or maybe take that first step towards coming to the LGBT Foundation for support, where could they find you? So if someone was wanting to learn more, or maybe take that first step towards coming to you for support, where would they find you?
So we're all over socials, LGBT Foundation. We've got a website which has more information about all of our groups. People can just turn up at the groups. You don't have to like give us all of your life story and information before you come along. But there's also like self-referral forms on there, so people can officially get referred into the service. And we also have an amazing ChemSafe specific website, which is chemsafe.space.
And there's links in the show notes, of course. Huge thanks to everyone at the LGBT Foundation for their help, including all of the stories and insights that I just didn't have room to fit in here. Part 2 will be with you shortly, featuring more from Simon and Rob. Until then, take care, make good choices, and remember that there's nothing wrong with asking for help. I love you.